Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pod Hub.
Okay.
This fucking ain't radio, okay? This is podcasting 101. You can swear, you can do whatever you want. Yes, I looked in the camera, broke the cardinal rule, but at the same time, you can say and do whatever you want. That's the point of podcasting. Sorry.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're recording. You can tell the coffee's
Excellent.
hit me now.
Caffeine
Welcome
high.
back to the second installment, but what are we talking about, Katie?
We're talking about the 5 best podcasting interview questions to ask your guests. So when we get a few guests who come in, they often ask for a little bit of our advice as how to structure their interviews with their what we like to call co-hosts. Best interview questions, because there's been some times when we've had interviews where the other person that we're interviewing has gone blank, we haven't prepared them, they don't know, and let's face it, not everybody is a natural communicator. So I think if we can give you a little bit more a few more tips on how to get the most out of your co-hosts and make your podcast really interesting for your viewers. So in this episode, we're going to come up with the 5 top podcasting interview questions to get the most out of your co-hosts. So number 1 is, what's the one thing you wish you had known when you first started? So that could be you first started your degree or first started in the industry you are or where you are currently. So I'm going to ask you that question today, Liam. So what was the one thing that you wish you had have known when you first started out as a personal trainer?
Habits, implementing the correct habits. You know, because I focus if we talk about personal training in particular, my habits around training wasn't, around sales, for example. If I'm speaking about trying to get clients, because that's what I needed to do back then, and that's the one skill that I wish I learned that I probably lacked a little bit because I was 18 years old. You know what I mean? So the right habits for me would be the correct one. And what are the right habits? That I'm asking myself that question. Is making sure that you understand lead generation and sales. Lead generation and sales. That's for personal training. But
and that's completely different to what most people think when they go into personal training. They think they have to know how to do a squat properly, how many reps.
So that's the thing. It's a bit of a gamble, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I know we're going off topic, but this is the beauty of podcasting. You ask one question, it opens up the floor for another 10 minutes.
And hopefully will for your co-host
for your co-host as well. That's exactly right. Your idea, going back to it, I won't answer the question, just going back to, in terms of podcasting, I've lost my point. I always lose my point, don't I? No.
We can edit that.
We can edit that. Cut that shit out.
Just cut it out.
Cut it out. I've had too much coffee.
But I think that's a really good point. Is so we've asked you, what's one thing that you had known, especially when you first started as a PT, and you've come back and said lead generation and sales. Most PTs kind of probably would have gone down the exercise physiology side of it. Oh, I wish I had known how to, get better size.
That's it. I've got it back now.
Back.
Yeah, because I've focused my energy exactly what you just said. Focused my energy back then on learning anatomy, and which is important as a personal trainer because you have to know more than your customer. But I got so involved in what the attachments are in my hip flexors and understanding that there's 4 elements in my hip flexor: pectineus, iliopsoas, rectus femoris, sartorius. It's 5 elements. Sartorius, the tensor fasciae latae. I think I pronounced that correctly. So that sounds good for me, and I sound like I know what I'm talking about. My client doesn't give a shit. They just want me to increase flexibility on your hip flexors. So if I had the lead generation and the sales technique to understand that, then I would have got more customers. That's what I was trying to say. I lost my point, but I got it back.
Good point. So
leaving it in there, Katie.
Best thing to come out of that is habits.
Yep.
So, creating good habits is a really important component. And the other thing was, perhaps it's not just, one element to your business, especially as a business owner, there's lots, and find out what the most important part it is to keep you moving forward. Done.
Perfect.
Question 1.
Okay, so I'm asking you the question now. Welcome to question 2, Katie. What's your biggest failure and or win?
Biggest win? Getting through a university degree, 100%. And there's so much social media hype out there at the moment that education is not important. I'll tell you, I wouldn't be where I am now without it. So definitely, I can't recommend educating professionally yourself go forward, whether it's a university degree, whether it's a diploma, wherever you are, proper education is a ticket to success. And the biggest failure is, I'm a global lip service venture. So I started a business. I've had a few businesses over the years, but this, 2 years, heart, soul, sweat, money, and it was a failure, but there was lessons out of it that I've learned.
Then you came into a podcast recording studio.
Exactly. And now I'm in a podcast, in the game with the podcasting studio. But, the people and the networks I'm in along the way from that business venture, I wouldn't have met yourself if I hadn't have started that business. And so that's been a really important venture, even though the end of it was a failure. The journey definitely wasn't. So I think that's one thing to take out of it.
So that's the second question. You doing the third question?
I'm going to do the third question. The third question we had is for you. What's the most important element to your success?
Tenacity.
Tenacity.
Yeah, I think tenacity, being tenacious, is probably I always run with a quote: "Friendly persistence wears down resistance." So I'm consistently showing up all the time. It doesn't matter what happens in that day. I don't know if it's tenacity or discipline, doesn't matter, or always showing up. What's that? What do we call that? Tenacity? Is that tenacious? Consistency?
Persistence.
Persistence.
Yeah,
I'll say persistence. Number one thing is just more persistence.
I think that's definitely...
I usually try and say friendly persistence wears down resistance, because if I say just persistence, I sound like a stalker.
I'm going to persist to call you.
Yeah, I'm going to keep persisting to call you, Katie.
And I think that in today's world, that's really important, because most people want instant gratification. And we know, I know as a veteran of entrepreneurial background, that it's not, instant gratification is not something that, even if you do get it, it's not something that's likely to stick long term. Definitely.
Okay, so that's a third question.
Third question down. Fourth question.
So should we run through the three questions so far that we've done?
Yes.
So what's the one thing you wish you'd known when you first started, whatever it is, degree, business, career? Number two, what's your biggest failure and or win? Mm-hmm. Number three, what's the most important element to your success?
Yes.
Drum roll.
Number four.
Number four, what habits do you follow?
Habits. Very important. Wine, definitely. No. Alcohol and caffeine.
Yeah.
But besides that...
And she's not joking.
I'm not joking. Caffeine is my up and wine is my down, or vodka actually. But I think the most consistent habit I've ever had in my life is exercise as part of my daily, if not weekly, routine. And that's since I was probably 5 or 6 years old, is definitely one of those. A good sleeping habit. I can fall asleep standing up by 9 o'clock at night. So I think that's definitely one. And getting up in the morning, 5 a.m.
Perfect.
Consistent.
I like it.
Quiet household.
Quiet
good
household.
Time to get things done, whether it's work, whether it's exercise, whatever it is, getting up a little bit earlier, or for those people that aren't morning people, maybe going to bed maybe an hour later and getting whatever it is, that exercise in the hour to yourself, the hour extra of work.
The hour of power, I call it.
Yeah.
The first hour of the day. Okay, cool. So that's number four.
So
What's
number five?
Five. This is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Who would be 3 people you would invite to dinner and why?
Can you guess my 3?
Joe Rogan.
Oh, that was number 1. Joe Rogan, man. You're the man.
Joe Rogan, number 1. Oh, number 2.
So I actually pushed that question with another question, didn't I?
Yes.
This is not part of it. That's not part of it.
I don't know.
So
who's your number 2?
Richard Branson.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Virgin. Definitely.
Mr. Virgin. And Conor McGregor.
Oh, really?
Sorry, guys. Hate him or love him. He's just been a massive marketing king, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He just knows how to talk shit and back it up.
Yeah.
Last couple of years, he hasn't done that, but they're the 3. Just because I feel like Joe Rogan would just have an abundance of stories with all the guests that he's had in his podcast. Richard Branson with the amount of success, but and failures at the same time. And then Conor McGregor, the PR, sort of another PR genius. I just think that would be great stories to share, and there'll be good people I reckon, to have around.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
five people.
Good
I
job.
mean, sorry, 3 people.
3 people.
5 questions.
5 questions.
Should we run through them?
5 questions. Let's run through them. So question number 1.
Yep.
Kick us off.
I'm kicking them off. Sorry.
You're kicking 'em
What's
off.
the one thing wish you'd known when you first started?
Question 2, what's your biggest failure and or win?
Number 3, what's the most important element to your success?
Question 4 would be, what habits do you follow?
Number 5, 3 people to dinner, who would it be? And just on the questions, guys, as well, don't always get caught up in just the questions. Like, they're important, but it depends on what type of personality you are as well. Like, these are 5 great questions that you can always fall back on, but it's still a conversation. So you just want it to be a free-flowing conversation. So you just want to be able to ask questions. Like, sometimes these are just an added extra. I was like, what, when, why, how. I'm always intrigued on the person who I'm bringing in and what information that I want to try and get out of them. For example, if it's a sports star, what I'm like. I'm just a bit of a free flowing. I don't really plan that much. That's the type of personality I am. You might be a structured, like Katie, she's structured, so she
Yeah.
needs the 10 questions. That's cool to be both. So I think it's good to learn both skills, to be structured, know when to be structured and know when to be free flowing.
Yeah.
So then you can come out of there and be in the moment. I know it sounds a bit deep and cheesy, but be in the moment with that person. Like, if I am interviewing Richard Branson, it's like, what is it in that moment that I'm thinking about that I want to try and, get out of him,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense.
Well,
Or
it's
like
all
one
a
of-
delivery mode of what that person's personality is
yeah,
like
like
as
what
well.
what
Like,
intrigues me, I'm always about intuition. I'm passionate about, like, see, my passion is success. Like, how'd you do that? What'd you do to get there? Why? I'm always asking those questions, and sometimes it's even as just asking a question through one word, like as I mentioned, what, when, why, how. So yeah, just that a little bit extra element on top of the 5 questions. Always good to have those. They're our favorite 5 questions, but also just remember, just relax and just let it be a free flowing conversation, no matter who's
Yeah.
opposite you.
I
That's
think
all I
that's
just want to.
important as well.
Definitely. Legend.
Beautiful.
Sweet. Until
Sweet.
next time.
Until next